This is a book review of Atlas at War. Now, this is edited by Dr. Michael J. Vassallo and art restoration by Allan Harvey. And it's from Dead Reckoning. The book came out in 2020 and it's got approximately 260 pages of very enjoyable Atlas at War. Now, Atlas Comics, though there never was an Atlas Comics, it's a distribution, but it's obviously a nice title, Atlas at War. There's a few slight disappointments with this book. I'm going to put those first because, frankly, I think the book is superb. But I want to say the minor thing. It would have been lovely if it had 1 written there. Volume 1. Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4. Because it's nice to be consistent when you go nice all the way along. And I really hope there will be 6 or 7 volumes of this. Because I think this is an absolute gem. So that's a minor criticism. Also, no bonus material. I would love to bonus section, which is obviously not just the stories, because the stories are great. In fact, they're very good. Would have been nice to have included the covers. I think Atlas brought out, at that time, during the 1950s, there were some great covers. So it's a pity that they weren't included. Thumbnails, maybe 6 or 7 pages, maybe 50 covers put over a number of pages, very tiny thing, just to see some of the covers. And also just get the general feel of not just the ones included in here, but all of the titles. Because Atlas, Martin Goodman, brought out loads and loads and loads of different titles. There were so many. I mean, when I started collecting Atlas comics, I just get to the point where I think, I must have most of those now. That's all. At least one of each title. Very hard, because he brought so many out. He was always changing the things. Must have been very hard at the newsstand. Where's my comic? Oh, it's become something else this week. However, paper quality is lovely. Restoration, I think, is just superb. Like I say, it's just been cleaned up. Hasn't been done like omnibus editions, so it's actually as if you're getting really decent quality comics from the newsstand. Though the paper quality, obviously, it's slightly off-white. It's a cream, so you haven't got white pages as you would, of course. And also, it's bigger than the original comics, unless the original comics were a lot bigger than, I know comics were slightly bigger back then, but I think these are definitely look, to me, slightly bigger than, I might be completely wrong. Yeah, I'm certain that this is bigger. However, if I'm wrong on that, so you can see the size of the thing, so you can make a judgment yourself. And I'm going to put some comic pages up to that, so you can see the comic pages, you can see the size. And also, of course, the colour that's used. So some stories there. Yeah. Don't want to show any of the last pages. Always the worst thing when you're doing any showing of various things in books is you don't want to show the last page or the last couple of pages so people get obviously get the story. You don't want to spoil the story. And I think there's some really, really enjoyable gems in this. So I'm just going to go through the book now. So you've got the contents page. And the contents are massive. There's 50 stories in here. And it's not all just one type of period. So you've got like Korean stories. You've also got ones in the sky. You've got ones submarines. You've got Bataan. You've got various ones. Even Gettysburg is in here. So it's sort of a feel like to me, it's like the EC comics, the Two-Fisted and all those sorts of things. So I just love these stories. Also, you've got a right mix of artists. You've got Russ Heath, Joe Manili, Jerry Robinson, Gene Colan, Russ Heath again, Joe Sinnott, Gene Colan there, Jack Davis. So you've got lots of EC. So you can see Don Heck. I really think there should be a massive omnibus edition of Don Heck. Why they haven't brought out one? Also, Bill Everett, of course. And also, maybe Russ Heath. Maybe there's a lot of material Russ Heath. Joe Manili, of course, definitely should be an omnibus edition or 2 of his work. Why the 50s have been sort of ignored by Marvel baffles me. I think the 50s have got some true gems. There's some pretty awful stuff as well. Not saying it was all perfect, because it was not. Some absolutely dire stories, though I don't think there's any included here. I mean, hopefully there will be like another 6 or 7 volumes of this would be just brilliant, but you can only hope. And so apparently there were like thousands and thousands of stories. So there are probably, obviously, out of 1,000 stories, there's going to be some that are just sort of, and they're going to be repetitive. So what else you got? You've got introduction by the brilliant Dr. Michael J. Vassallo. Really excellent introduction, get a feel for the period of the comics there. And then you've got this advert, which is the War Tales, the Atlas distribution. So you've got spy fighters, battle action, and they produce so many. Loads and loads. Battle Brady, Combat Casey. I love those ones. I've got a few of these. I haven't got vast amounts of war ones. They turn up in the UK. They're quite expensive, of course. So it's lovely when volumes like this come out where you can actually think. So you've got APO there, Korean story. Then you've got Alone. Actually, that story feels a bit like a story that's recently was in the film, 1917, sort of story where you've got a character. So, but no, it's not exactly the same. But there's a sort of lots of characters sweating and things. I love it. It's just great artwork as well. Got stories. Another classic story here. In fact, this book has got so many classic stories. 5 Hours Till Dawn. Black ink was used for that. Lots of black ink. This one's brilliant. Rain. And there are lots of these ones where these titles. What a great title. Rain. I think it gives it away what the story's about. That's about sunny days. Probably not. Cripes, if only it would stop raining. I must admit, sometimes when you look outside the UK weather, sometimes I think, why didn't it stop raining? Cycle, another one word. Great story as well. So the restoration is just really top notch. I mean, considering this is obviously from a comic book, because I assume the source material is not readily available. Obviously, it might be some pages here and there, but lots of this was lost. And I think the restoration, when you look very close up to this, is very decent quality. And I love this bit where you've got like bright yellow. The whole panel is in yellow. No colour at all. Fully, because of course the explosions are shown very dramatic. Also you've got stories here where you've got stories where it's from the German perspective, which is interesting as well. This one's great. I love stories set in snow. I hate the snow. I'm not a fan of snow at all. But it's weird when you get a story that's set wartime conflict, and of course lots of it must have been with the snow coming down like that. It must have been awful. Flame, another one word. Again, you've got some great Joe Manili, Rookie. Just absolute classic. I love Joe Manili. Muck, I mean, that is brilliant. That is just so gruesome. And the colours, actually, it's all done in very low contrast. And of course, that makes it hard for even the best restoration in the world. It's going to make it very hard. It's a very sort of hard to make out, but it's just a brilliant story. Muck. This is a classic. Atrocity story. Atrocity story has to go down. Why this story is not, well, I don't know. Maybe it has been reprinted before. I'm not familiar with, but I've never read it before. And I have to say, that is just amazing story. Well, there's a nice twist at the end, and so there is obviously an element of you can read other things into it. However, this is just wow. Why this story is not up there in the top of the sort of famous stories of the 1950s, I do not know. In terms of comics, of course, it's just most of the stuff like this Atlas stuff has been totally forgotten about, and it's really pity because they're really good stories. Flare, Windmill. And there's also stories, of course. There are lots of ones with fighter pilots and things, so it's not all set on the standard battle. John Severin works. Just some of you look at me, you see EC Comics. Just feels like EC Comics. Just looking at something. Well, this one, Last Bullet. Just classic. You know as soon as you look at that. Bernie Krigston. Just awesome bit of artwork there. And this one, The Butcher of Volkswagen. Wow. Comes to mind. Another classic story. Battle of Jutland. And some battle stations. That's just Mort Drucker. The Stalkers. This has got, like I said, 50 stories. And this is just... And then you've got, at the end, you've got some classic Ditko and Kirby. Leaving the best, probably. Well, obviously, lots of people love Kirby. Lots of people love Ditko. I love them. So it's just great to see the stories at the end there. Ring of Steel. You've got Invincible Enemy. Just classic. Guard Duty. As soon as you see that, you just immediately think Ditko. Just got Ditko. Obviously, it's Kirby the artist, but Ditko for inking. A Tank Knows No Mercy. Again, just brilliant. And then finishing off with Gettysburg. So you go back in time. So I don't know how many other Atlas comics did lots of stories with like the Romans and all that sort of thing. I have no idea. I'm certain, like I say, hopefully that sort of thing, Atlas at war, the Romans, medieval time, maybe there were lots of stories of those, and hopefully at some point they will bring out a book of all that sort of material as well. As well as a comedy book would be great, humour, etc., crime, police in action, and so on and so on. There's loads and loads of possible books they could bring out. I think this is just an absolutely brilliant book. So that's it at the end, about the contributions at the end. And, well, I have to say, this book is totally recommended. This is just an absolute masterpiece. I'm really pleased that they finally brought out lots of these books from, obviously, comics from Atlas, or Marvel comics, of course. But it's just great. So, Atlas at War, totally recommended.